So picking up where we left off in my previous video, I'd like to highlight other books and authors who were speaking about this topic in particular. We'll also go over a few of the older articles as well. The first author I would like to mention is Mr. Gary Wayne, and he is the author of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. It's a very good book that I highly recommend. And we're going to begin with a quote from his book on page 146 from chapter 19. Quote, Charles Etienne Brasseur, the French abbot who discovered and translated the Popul Vuh into French in 1864, met natives who held long-time beliefs concerning the destruction of a continent he believed was Atlantis. Quetzalcoatl was the god of the east, the king of Tulan, and a serpent. Thus, Quetzalcoatl ultimately translates, according to Jonathan Evans, as a bird serpent. Brasseur further noted the Popul Vuh was written in part from memory and copied in part from the sacred books of the Quiche Mayan, the Book of Princes, written in characters that only priests and the princes understood. Close quote. The story of the plumed or feathered serpent goes back, like so many other stories, to the fallen angels and the Nephilim that they produce, violating God's law, hence Genesis 6. I'd like to know how it is that the ancient civilizations of the Aztecs and Mayans believed in the same pre-flood city of Atlantis as the secret brotherhood of the Masons. Interestingly enough, there are many other texts across the earth that describe the same thing or the same belief in the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and the Great Flood. Texts like the Chaldean record of Bereshit, the Sumerian Kings List, and Odin of the Arabian Adites, just to name a few. There are so many others. The ongoing theory is that when these angels fell, they dispersed all over the earth, taking on forms like the plumed or feathered serpent, teaching the forbidden arts to men and women. It also clarifies somewhat how so many different cultures have accounts of this mystical city, Atlantis, a city from the ancient days prior to the Great Flood. From my understanding, these Nephilim, or superhero deities, have the ability to appear as different forms, for example, Quetzalcoatl appearing as a feathered serpent. So many natives across the earth have some similar tales all their own. Suffice it to say, there is a consensus on what, who, and how, and where these entities are and come from. Let me finish this part with another quote from Mr. Wayne's book on page 153. Quote, Schwaller de Lebix believed demigods or priests were the original mentors of pharaonic civilization, teaching them ancient knowledge. In the same line of thought, Osiris was known as the Serpent King or God, with a little g, who voyaged around the world as the bringer of civilization and the founder of his mystery cult of knowledge, just as Quetzalcoatl was a serpent god, and the civilizer and teacher of the arts, sciences, and crafts to the Central Americans. All sources from antiquity seem to speak to the same source for antediluvian or antediluvian civilization, which derived from the illicit knowledge of heaven and the 7 sacred sciences received from the infamous 7 fallen angels. So going back to some of these older articles that discussed the plumed or feathered serpent, let's tie some of this together. Remember, we discovered in this article from the Times Dispatch dated May of 1914 that Masonic emblems were located all over the Mayan burial plots in the Yucatan. I mean, are we really surprised to find feathered serpent columns there? Masons love the representation of columns, don't they? I mean, their symbology is literally everywhere. This article from the Princeton Union in Minnesota, dated November of 1912, comes an explanation somewhat of perhaps whom the feathered serpent represents. It refers to the House of the Yellow King, according to the Aztecs, and a key to the mystery of a man with knowledge of building and traveling from the West, who taught the Masons art, how to cut and carve stone, how to make cement. He supervised the building of one temple in each of the 5 cities, then disappeared. 5 cities, huh? Where have we heard that before? Disappeared. Kind of like a magician. And that description is totally that of a Freemason. It goes on to say this mystery man, builder, teacher of the arts and temples, left his mark on all of them. He signed his handiwork in stone, and that sign which he left was a feathered serpent. If you read further on, they claim that all the ruins there were built by the same tribe, designed by the same mastermind. A Mason, not surprising. And this little paragraph intrigues me because of what's mentioned here. First, it comes from the Bolivar County Democrat, dated May of 1923. The story goes, or the headline reads, Yucatan, America's Egypt. It goes on, in their opinion, of offering theories on the secrets of the prehistoric Mayans, but it's the last paragraph that I would like to highlight here. Quote, "The Peabody Museum will shortly publish a work on the Mayan civilization by a Professor Herbert Spindon and a Professor A.M. Tozer. It is based largely on archaeological treasures recovered from the sacred sacrificial well referred to by a Dr. Morley. Not much is known publicly about these treasures. They were privately removed through the efforts of Edward H. Thompson, former United States consul at Meridia, and have been jealously guarded." Close quote. So who are these gatekeepers of our history? Edward Thompson published an article in 1879 for Popular Science Monthly called Atlantis, Not a Myth. His argument was the indigenous people of North and Central America could be remnants of the lost continent of Atlantis. He considered himself a Mayanist and was persuaded by others, or other elitists of the day, to explore the Mayan ruins in exchange for receiving an appointment as an American consul. It's more like he was sent there to guard and monitor the site, to control what the exact archaeological findings were or would be. We can discern this for ourselves by looking at his credentials. Who or what could be controlling or influencing his theories or findings? Well, according to Wikipedia, he explored the site for over 30 years on behalf of the Field Columbian Museum, the American Antiquarian Society, and the Peabody Museum at Harvard University. And we can draw our own conclusions here. We have discovered most Ivy League intuitions and universities are connected to secret societies. For instance, Yale's Skull and Bones and Harvard's Scroll and Key. Every one of them have some type of society that is financially backed by the wealthy elite families who attend there. Meaning, who do you think really controls these schools and institutions and what is found at an archaeological dig? Why is it that only these institutions are permitted to excavate the earth? For now, in closing, it's apparent that we'll be sorting through our actual history for a while, piecing things together bit by bit. But with these pieces so far, we're beginning to see a clearer picture of what or whom has been behind the concealment or distorting of our history. Bloodline families and ritual with the fallen angels or Nephilim, who have appeared in many different forms to spread the forbidden arts, so to speak, forms like the plumed or feathered serpent.